the first thing I want to do here is let's just quickly hit play and see what we've got so far. And let me actually turn on cached playback here. So last time I worked on this shot, the main thing I focused on was getting the core poses in there, the contacts passing up, down, and refining the hips and chest a little bit. Not a ton, but a little bit. So I've got this. And it looks... It looks okay. Actually, I wouldn't even say it looks okay. It looks And there's a few reasons for this. One, the head is absolutely still, so that makes it look very strange. And then the hips and chest are moving nicely, but the feet just kind of feel weirdly stompy, but they're not stompy, they're kind of light. It's this weird mix that doesn't feel like there is weight. Yeah, exactly. The legs feel poppy and yet floaty at the same time. It's not a good combination. So what is going on? Why is it feeling like this? And this is one of the big things that I see a lot of new animators struggle with when they first get started. Not just with creatures like this, but with any type of walk. They run into a situation where the feet just feel wrong, or something feels wrong. Something feels weightless. Something feels just not the way it should. They're trying to get this much more exaggerated walk, this funny cartoony walk, and nothing's happening. And hello, Felicia! I should fix the head issue on my tiger. Seems that there's no space control, as in to isolate the head, although it has word global all. One control that you can look for is not in the head but in the neck. So for example, this rig here, if I select the head, I've got this neck global, that'll freeze the head in there. But sometimes that could be in the neck as well. So you could try looking in there. Might be there. Now, another way is to look to see if it has an IK head feature. That might help. I've never used CG Spectrum's Tiger, but I could take a look at it sometime this week, hopefully. That's the free one, right? I could take a look at that and see if I can find something. And Keister, hello! So, we've got the feet here, and like I said, so many problems. But why? Why are there so many problems here? Well, the big thing is that the feet, like I said earlier, don't stay on the ground long enough. So, what I need to do is figure out when the feet should actually pick up and contact the ground. Well, I've already got the contact frames. That's done. Yay. And TKW Vice, hello, how's it going? Long time no see. Yeah, it's been a long time. I hope you've been doing well. So, if I look at the feet right now, we've got our contact poses, but what I also need is to know when the feet actually lift off the ground. And I've actually gone through and I've written some notes down, just studied my reference, and the back foot will lift off the ground 1 or 2 frames before the front foot contacts, and the front feet lift off the ground about 1 frame before the back foot contacts. So, if I look at this here, already you can see for the front feet, we've got a problem. The front foot is already basically lifted off the ground and going before the back foot contacts. Now, another thing that we're dealing with is that the feet ease into the contacts. That's going to make things look very weird. Feet do tend to ease a little bit into the contacts, but not this much. Look at this back foot, how much it just kind of floats in there. Let's see. Anyway, I'm going to listen to you guys in background. I'm going to animate my shot. Nice. Good luck with that. Thank you for the feedback once again. I'm glad. I'm glad it was helpful. And if ever you want more feedback, always feel free to ask. And a little Danny, hello. Life's been crazy. New dad. Oh wow! Congrats. That must be a big life change. Probably not been sleeping much, but congrats! Huge congrats. I've been good. Busy. Lots of new projects, but overall really good. So let's get this in here. So really the big thing that's going to need to happen is I just need to set more keys. So let's start with the front feet. These are actually going to be a little easier to start with just because they kind of work a little more solidly. So we've got our contact here on frame 22. Well, one thing I'm going to do just to make it a little bit easier to see where my feet are contacting is I'm going to take my back foot here and I'm just going to break the tangents on that contact frame and move it back. What this is going to do is just give a bit of a fast in to the foot contact. So now as it comes in, it actually hits a little harder. So we get a little bit more of a hit right in there. Now, I also have to make sure I turn off my reverser control right there, so I actually start walking in space. I'm not a fan of animating on a treadmill. I can put the rig on a treadmill later, but when I'm animating, I don't like it there. So let's see. So we've got that. Now, the front foot here should be lifting off the ground about one frame before the contact. And you can see here, it's already way in the air on frame 21. It actually leaves the ground on frame 17. So we've got a lot of extra frames here. So let's fix this. So front foot lifts off the ground about one frame. So I'm going to set a key here. And the foot's going to have to basically stay on the ground till about this point. Now this does mean I'll probably have to restructure my shoulder motion a little bit. The rotate Y is going to hold a lot more here. But that's fine. This is why when you're animating, don't put a lot of work and a lot of extra effort into every little detail before you work on other parts. You want to kind of bring everything up as a whole. Do one part, you move to another, do a little bit, go back, do a little bit more. It's going to bring your whole animation up together versus just in pieces, and then you're gonna have to redo everything anyway. That's never fun. So let's get this foot in position here. So as the foot comes up, the big thing that I want to have happen is that it should be raising up on the edge of the toe, like so. Coming up and over. The other thing that I need to do is really work on this fetlock. The fetlock is going to be very important, getting the weight of the horse working. And on this pose, what's going to happen is that the fetlock is going to start straightening with the... Most people call this the knee. It's not the knee. This is actually the foot. The ankle right up here. The knee is... right here. That would be the, since it's the arm, this is the elbow right there, this is the wrist, and then this is the knuckle joint. So get that in there. Now the other thing I want to do, and sorry if my throat, I keep trying to clear my throat. I woke up this morning and my throat does not want to talk, which is great because I've got a D&D game in a few hours to host. So we'll see how well that goes. Okay. So what I'm looking for here in my reference is, yeah, that's what I thought. As the horse steps off the ground, the hoof does not just pivot on a straight angle. Instead, what ends up happening is that the hoof, and let's see if this rotation is going to give me what I want. Okay, it doesn't seem, that rotates up. Oh, dang it. Doesn't do what I want. Let's see, will this do it? No. Will this do it? No. Let's see. So right now what I'm trying to do is just figure out which control is going to give me the control that I need for this. I think my best bet might be the root control here. That way I'm dealing with less stuff. So as the foot comes up, it's actually going to rotate this way, outwards, because it's pivoting on the edge of a hoof. And it's also going to move over this way, like that. So we get a little bit of an angle in the hoof. It's not just moving in a straight, boring line. So I want to get that in there. Now as this happens, because I don't have a control right for the end of the hoof, I'm going to get some sliding. You can see right there where the edge of the hoof just kind of moves forward. That's not really what you want either. It should be pivoting from that point. So what I like to do when I'm working with things like this is I'll just create a locator. Go to my contact frame and I'll just place the locator right at the edge of the hoof. And usually what I look for is, you can see this nickeling on the hoof. Nickeling is an old term, which basically means that on a round surface you get these square faces. It's an old term for like American nickels. They're basically round coins, but they've got these flat edges to them. So I look for a point right there, and I just line the locator up to that. And actually this foot's a little up in the air here for some reason. I think the shoulder would just need to come down. It's good enough for now. So, actually what I'll do, just to avoid that being an issue, I'm just going to take the whole chest and move it down until the feet contact. And I'll adjust all of that later. But for now I just want to get the feet, give them a good solid pass. And you can see how much that adjusted there. Okay. So I've got that in place. Now I can just go to my lift frame, and there you go. That actually solved the problem. So the problem wasn't that the foot was adjusting in the wrong way. It was that the leg was overstretched and causing an issue. So let's see how far I can push this. Probably about there, I think. Now the hard part with horse reference is most of the reference I've ever found with horse walks, the horse is always walking like in dirt and sand, not on a nice solid road. At least none that has like good close-ups and stuff. So It's going to be a lot of kind of guesswork on exactly how the foot is moving. If I had a little bit more time, what I would do is I would find a horse walking on cement and use that for my reference. Okay. So this is looking better. This other leg here is totally wrong. The knee should be totally straight right there. The body is way too low right now. This should be like that. Right there. I think I can drag this a little bit more up. So let's get that in there. But now you can see all of a sudden that leg stays on the ground instead of just lifting away. Whereas, for example, this one just lifts and both feet are just kind of drifting by. Now you get a kind of 1-2. Now the next thing that's happening is this foot is coming off the ground too fast. I got the pose just before it lifts off the ground. Great. But the hoof itself is not going to come up until it really has to. And for a horse, that's going to be like maybe 1 or 2 frames of actually lifting the hoof off the ground. So I think I can just keep this flat right here. So let's try that. And I love this song, by the way. This is one of my favorite Legend of Zelda songs. I remember when I saw the trailer with this song in it. Oh, Cameron and I were in heaven. It was like all of our childhood dreams coming true. Zelda was so epic. It was so cool. Then let's see, the fetlock is going to start to come up, but not totally straighten yet. So basically everything's kind of easing right here. Now this is definitely should be a little lower there. There we go. So now we're starting to get some motion in here. Let's see. Now it's not going to be perfect yet. Basically, in order to get it just right, we're going to need to key this almost frame by frame in certain areas. So you can see right now it's slipping back just a bit right there before popping forward. Right there. Now this could also be the body just being a little too high still and causing issues. Have you ever played Pitfall Adventures and Earthworm Jim? I love old school games. I've played a little bit of Earthworm Jim. I really love the music in Earthworm Jim. I believe it was composed by Tommy Tallarico. And I don't know how many of you guys used to watch, what was it called? Was it Electronic Boutique? No. What was his gaming channel? It was him and something Lucas. They had a gaming show. Cameron and I used to watch it so much when we were young because it was the one place where we could get gaming information. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And Pitfall Adventures, I remember playing Pitfall, but Pitfall Adventure, is that the one on the PlayStation? I remember renting that once. And if I remember correctly, it had a copy, or a, not a copy, but a demo of what's the car destruction game, or car battle game? It's Twisted Metal, that's it. Had a copy of Twisted Metal on it, and we loved playing that demo. Let's see, let's push this Just a little bit more. Right now I'm just trying to avoid these pops in the knees because they're going to make it a real pain to try and get this leg working correctly. And Sylvia, hello! There we go. So it's not perfect. We're a long way from perfect, but now you can see there's weight in there. All of a sudden this hoof isn't just floating away magically. It feels like it's being pulled off the ground. And there's suddenly this extra little bit of flavor, or like not flavor, texture. That would be a better word, especially when you're talking about feet. There's this texture to it that just, it doesn't feel even and boring, just 1, 2, 1, 2. There's a little faster extra motion in there. So this rig's a lot of fun so far. I really like it. Definitely recommend everyone give it a try if you can. Plus it's always good to have like horse mechanics and stuff on your reels. So let's see. Now the front foot contact here, this is not going to be working right now because of the chest. Mostly it's the shoulder that needs to work here. Like just doing that, all of a sudden that fixes it. So I'll just have to work with that. And let's see who. Wolfs, thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate that. Sylvia. I have a technical question about animation. For example, let's say you had a walk cycle, run cycle done, and you're quite happy with it, and you want to go through animating a long length of shot. How do you do it by using library? So let's say you have exactly that situation. You've created a walk cycle. Let's say my walk cycle here is perfect. It's absolutely exactly what I ever wanted in a cycle. And now I'm ready to use it in shots and to import it into a bunch of shots and just get going with it. What you can do is you can save the animation into a studio library or an animation library. Now, what I recommend, and this goes for everyone here, whether you're an AM or not, this is the tool AM uses, but it's a free tool, and it's a tool that lots of studios use as well. So let me actually get it installed here, because for some reason on my system, I don't know why, it keeps wanting to uninstall itself or not load. So let me just, boop, there we go. So this is Studio Library, and let me get a link for everyone as well. So here you go. Yeah, it used to work fine for me, and now it doesn't want to keep loaded in. I might just have to tweak some stuff. But this is Studio Library, and in here you can basically save eye poses, hand poses, facial poses, whole poses, or even animation. So for example, I could take all of my controls here and then come into this and go to New, Animation. And I would call this Gorgeous, which is the name of the horse, Walk. I've got my frame range right there, so 1 to 39 is good. I want to save all the frames. And then you would click on this little image here. This will allow you to capture the animation. And that's a little far, so I'd probably want to zoom in. There you go. So now I've got my walk cycle in there, and I'd hit save. Now from here, I could go into any shot, bring in my rig, click that button, walk cycle done. It's in there. Now with that, I've got that, great, but you never really want to use just a vanilla walk cycle in a shot because then it's just moving in a straight line. Well, that's where animation layers come in. So I would have my base animation layer, which is just the cycle, and then I would add new animation layers on top and maybe add a head turn or like a main shake, or tweak the animation so that I'm no longer just on that straight line. But the base walk cycle is still in there, and I always have it in case I need it. Or you could just start tweaking it and just changing it completely. So that would be the way you would do it. And with all boy, hello, welcome, thank you so much for the follow. Shame they didn't call him Gorgeous Horseman. It would have been perfect reference to this damn animation skit I watched once. Brojack, was that it? I have a question about cycles animation layers. Why wouldn't you put the cycle on the animation layer? My question is because what happens if you have this horse walking and suddenly you want him to stop? So the first part would be a cycle, but then it has to stop. Then what you would do is there's so many ways you could have the cycle as a layer and then animate underneath it. That could work. I kind of just like to have the cycle as the base layer and then kind of add on top, because what I would do is I would just create a new layer when he has to stop and create an override layer. So with layers you can create either it's either an additive layer or an override layer. An additive layer will allow you to add animation on top. So this could be having the cycle and having the main shake or adjusting his trajectory. But if you need him to stop, you would create an override layer. So he's walking and then you switch into an override layer, which is now new animation. Now that walk cycle is no longer being and then you just match the last pose of the base layer, have it transition in so it's nice and smooth, and then you start animating from there. And then later on you can just flatten all the layers and have a solid just animated pass that you can work on from there and not have to worry about, okay, which layers have to switch at which time, all of that. So there's a lot of different ways. You could do it the other way where the cycle is on a layer, and then as it goes you turn off that cycle layer and then just go to your base animation, which has your stopped pose. It's the same thing, just kind of in reverse. So one better than the other? Not really. It's whatever works best for you. So yeah. Or sometimes what I'll do is I'll keep the base animation layer just empty and just work all in layers and then compress them all once I'm done. It really depends on the project. So let's get this other hoof in here working now. So right now all I'm trying to do is do a quick pass on the feet rising up. So this is going to be, once again, let's look for the contact, and just to make the contact a little easier to see, I'm going to take my tangents here, break them, now horse, unlike humans, when they walk, they actually walk in kind of circular paths for their feet, not this kind of wavy path. So that's something I definitely need to watch out for here. So contact is on frame 8. I want to go to frame 6. Set a key here. And basically get that foot in place. Oh, and make sure I copied my reverse layer by accident. Let's not do that. Okay. So on this frame, let's get that body a little lower. I know technically the body shouldn't go this low, that'll be the shoulders. Right now, I just want to get this in quick so I have my foot poses working, and then I'm going to go back to the body and adjust the shoulders and all of that to work properly. So right here, the hoof is going to start to come up. The fetlock is going to start to push upwards. What's this song from? Near, is it? Let's see. Yeah, I've never played Near, but I love the music in it. It's really good. Every time the music comes on in the playlist, it's like, oh, that's really nice. Okay, so once again, let's go forward and get this pose in place. So for this, I'll use the main control here. So this is the leg roll. Use that to get that hoof in the right angle, get the fetlock in the right angle, and then don't forget to add those extra rotations in there. So the rotate Y and Z. And this is just going to help give a more natural pull off to that hoof. So you can see, it doesn't take long once you just go at it. And let's see how this feels now. So all of a sudden, aside from that leg wiggle in there, if we just look at the feet, suddenly that feels a little stronger and just more interesting. And Simama, hello! Oh, and question. Someone told me that there is a gravity. I'm new, so I don't know if that's true. There is gravity in Maya, but it's only with physics. Right now, what we're doing is we're doing keyframed animation, so there's no physics in the sense of actual... what's the right word I'm looking for? We're not simulating anything. All of it is done with our... how we pose it out. It's almost like drawing it out. But there is physics in Maya, which you can get to under the menu set here and going to FX. And you've got all of these different things. You can simulate particles, fluids, cloth, hair. And then, let's see, I don't have it in here. But if you go to Windows, Settings, Preferences, Plugin Manager, there's an awesome plugin called the Bullet plugin. And is that it right there? Or no, right here, Bullet. So the Bullet plugin is a plugin that is much faster, like rigid body physics. So if ever you want to like have, for example, I've got a dice full of a tray full of dice. That's what I want to say right there. If I wanted to simulate that and have them all rolling around, that would be what I would use. I would use Bullet physics to just have them all roll and get some really nice realistic motion without having to animate every single piece of dice on my own. So that's what I would end up doing. And let's see, I'm thinking of building a PC for VFX, sim, animation, rendering. Any advice you can give me? Ooh. MSI, the MSI gaming laptops are great and not that pricey. Yeah, I would personally go with a desktop. I'm a fan of desktops personally. Let's see, the NVIDIA RTX cards are really good. I've heard good things about them. If you have the money, a Quadro card is nice. That they're built for that kind of work. But for me, the money you put into a quadro card, unless you are going to be doing VFX for a living and making money off of it, I'd prefer to get an RTX card, simply because then your machine can be good at gaming and both sides of things versus just work. And for me, I do a lot of gaming and other kinds of projects on my system, so that works well for me. Now, in terms of processors and things like that, let's see. The big thing I would recommend is, what was it? It's Intel versus AMD. I went with an Intel processor, but I think AMD right now is actually leading the battle in terms of just quality processing and all of that. So check out AMD, and let's see what else. I actually would recommend, if you haven't checked it out already, Sir Wade, which, if you guys don't know Sir Wade, he is an awesome YouTuber slash Twitch streamer. He's a good friend of mine, and just an awesome person overall. He has a YouTube channel where he posts a lot of really cool stuff, and he made a video on animation machines, or specifically kind of VFX style machines, and the different hardware that works well for them. So I would recommend checking that out. I heard that either having an i9 9000K or Ryzen 7 is good. Yeah, I think Ryzen right now is kind of beating the i9s in terms of speed, or just in terms of my words are escaping me. They're just kind of a little bit better for animation. Let's see what else. Okay, here it is. The Ultimate Animation Computer Guide. Okay, so let me paste this in the link here, or paste the link in here. Boy, my words are backwards today. I don't know why. Everything I say is just in the wrong order. So there you go. So I definitely recommend checking that out and subscribing to him if you haven't. He's just got so many good videos. And check him out on Twitch as well. Which, although his YouTube and Twitch link should be just down below if you scroll down on this page here. But yeah, I'm trying to think what other system piece of hardware are going to be required. RAM, of course, 32 gigs. If you're going to be doing rendering and stuff like that, RAM isn't as important. That's going to be your CPU and GPU that are going to be much more important for rendering and VFX style stuff. But having enough RAM is always helpful, especially when you're writing caches and stuff like that. So if you're really going to be doing a solid machine, go for at least 32 gigs of RAM. If you can afford it, 64 is a nice thing to get. I've got 32 gigs of RAM in my machine here, and at times it's not quite enough. I would like to have 64 if I could. What else? Trying to think. Processor, you definitely want a solid enough power supply. That's actually the part that I tend to see a lot of people, when they're not used to building a PC, they'll get a power supply but not nearly enough for their system. So just double check that you've got a powerful enough power supply in your system. And Jackal Weeb, downing chocolate chips like Skittles. Ooh, that's a good thing to do. A good chocolate chip cookie. Oh, so good. But let's see. The other thing to do. This is not specifically like a hardware part for your PC in terms of. Oh, and this is off here. But if you can, I would also recommend investing in a sorry, the word is escaping. UPS system, an uninterruptible power supply. And this is something I recommend for everyone. If you're going into any computer realm, whether you're doing 2D or digital drawing, whether you're doing animation, whatever it is, get an uninterruptible power supply. Basically what that is a big battery pack that you plug your computer into, your monitors, and anything that you want to kind of protect. It acts as a surge protector, so if a power surge comes through and fries a bunch of stuff, well, your computer is going to be protected. And the other thing it does is if the power goes off, it's got a battery pack, so it'll keep your computer running. It is so useful when you're working on a project and you haven't saved for a little bit, and suddenly the power goes off and your computer stays on long enough for you to save it. That is so good. I've had so many times when the power went off and it's, oh wait, yay, save. Usually, depending on how much stuff you're running off of it, you can have like 5 to 15 minutes to save everything. So that's plenty of time. Save everything, close everything off nicely, turn off your computer, done. And your computer doesn't have a hard reboot. It helps protect the computer itself because you're not having that sudden stop in it. So overall, it's just really, really good investment to have. I would, ever since I've got mine, I would never have a computer without it. It's just too important. Let's see. And Deep Solanki and Jackal, thank you so much for the follow. A cooling system? Yeah, you definitely need some sort of cooling system. Personally, I just use fans. I would love to get a water coolant system, but I don't really need it. As long as you've got good ventilation, and to be fair, I'm in Canada. My computer is on the ground in the basement, so it's cold down here, cool. So it's cool enough already where I am. If you're in a hot climate, then you might want to have a water-cooled system, but to be honest, unless you're really overclocking your system, you're not going to really need it. A good fan, like a few really large fans in your system, that's going to work. Now, if you're doing sound recording, like with this and all that, those big fans are not quite as nice anymore because they're noisier. So then a water cooling system is nice to keep it quiet. But fans nowadays are pretty quiet for just everyday use. Acer gaming laptop that lags like crazy. Yeah, gaming laptops, I love gaming laptops, and laptops are nice because, well, they're portable and you can work anywhere, but they don't upgrade easily. So I've got a laptop on my desk right here. I'm actually using it to encode some files. And it's a great laptop, but it's getting up there in age, and it doesn't run the new programs like it should. My computer here is, I think, about the same age, maybe a little newer, but I've replaced parts in it already. I've replaced the video card once at least, and some extra bits here and there, and it's still going strong. And it's going to keep going strong for as long as I want, because I just replace whatever is slightly outdated and I keep going with it. So yeah, definitely worth checking out into a PC if you can, or like a desktop computer if you can. I plan to be a nomad animator as much as I can, so laptop forever. Yeah, if that's the life you want, then yes, definitely laptop forever. That's the big thing with the laptop, is it's portable, so you can go anywhere and animate and work, and that is so cool to be able to do that. It's just a little bit more costly, but hey, better than lugging around a PC and trying to find a desk that you can set up on every day. Let's see. And Ryzen comes with pretty good CPU coolers out of the box, if you don't plan on overclocking. Yeah, I typically look for getting good good fans and coolers for the CPU as well. The one that comes with the chips are pretty good, but I always like to get an extra one just because it's one of those few things that I just don't want to have it die on me. So that's just a preference, though. Like you said, most of the time you don't need to worry about it. Okay, so now I'm gonna just be doing the back feet here. I'm just trying to figure out which frame I want the want things to contact on. Once again, with just like the back feet, the front feet will contact the ground, and the back feet will lift off the ground just a few frames before that happens. So I'm just setting up my translates here to not ease into the ground, because that's not how feet work. So now we get, this is going to also help with that slowness right in there. So now the feet kind of have a little bit more of a hit in them. And let's see. So that foot, let's start with this one. This foot will contact on frame 15. So the back foot over here should only leave the ground about frame 14 or 13. I'll see if I can push it to frame 14. We might have to go to frame 13 though. So right now it's leaving at frame 11. So let's do this. Boop. So now this is gonna break the poor horse's leg. But this is where we just need to push things. So the back hoof really goes at an angle when the foot comes up. So it really just gets this break in it. It's not a break, but this angle. And then the fetlock kind of lines up with this. So something like that. And you get this kind of zigzag pattern just for a little bit in the leg. Can I share my horse gallop? Oh, definitely. Oh wait, will the link post? I still have to, I'm gonna write this down because I say it every stream and I keep forgetting. Right after this stream, or after the D&D game actually, I'm going to be looking through here and making sure that allow links, because it is a pain when people want to share stuff and they cannot do it. It's not fair. Let's see. So yeah, if you want to post the link, just don't put a .com in it, or like put a space in the URL so it breaks the URL, and then I can just copy and put it elsewhere. And Noelia, hello. The full system scan took 11 hours. Oh geez. I'm trying to do a ball bounce animation. How would you do a new frame, for instance? I click the button in a new frame, and say do that new frame. Do I have to move the ball or get a new one? So basics of animation is, let's create a polygon sphere here. So let's say I'm animating this sphere. Well, the first thing that you need to do is go in your timeline to the frame you want to save the pose. When you're setting a key, that's what you're doing here, is you're saving a pose at a specific point in time. So I'm on frame 1 right now, and I'll select my sphere and hit S to set a key. Boop. And we can see that it's set a key because all the attributes turn red and we get a tick mark on the timeline. Now, what I need to do is I need to go forward in time to the next point that I want. So let's say the ball is going to fall. Maybe it's going to take 12 frames to hit the ground. So I'm going to go to frame 13 right there. Now I'm going to take my ball once again, and this is my personal preference, is I will set a key on frame 13. Now you'll notice I haven't changed its position. The reason I do this is in the bottom corner here, and I'll have to turn my camera off just for a second to show you. In the bottom corner, there's this little icon right here. It's a kind of 2 arrows going in a circle. Oh, and you guys can't even see it. Can I show it? I have to turn everything off. Boop. There we go. Right there. There's a little red icon here. You can turn that on and off. This is the auto key option. What this does is it will turn on a feature which basically makes it so that I've set a key here on frame 13. Now, when I update any of the attributes here in the channel box, which is what happens when you move anything, so if I move this up or down or left and right, you'll notice that the attributes change and Maya will automatically key things for me. This is my preference for animating, because then, and you can even see in the graph editor here, when I move something, it updates and all the keys change. So what I do is, once again, let's say I have to go to the next pose. I'll go forward. Let's say I want my next pose to be on frame 20. I'll hit S to set a key and then move it forward. And you can see in my graph editor, we're starting to create animation. The graph editor actually shows you the values in time. And now we've got whoop, a swoop. There we go. Now, the reason I like auto key and I work like this is because I used to not do it. And I would always forget to hit S to set a key. So I'm going to turn auto key off. It's off right now. So let's say I go forward here and I'll move this object. Well, you'll notice no keys get set. Okay, well, let's do the same method I did before. I'll hit S to set a key and then move it around. Nothing updated here. And you can even see in the channel box, it shows that certain attributes haven't been keyed. The attributes are showing up as pink, not red. Pink means that there are keys on this at some point, but not on this specific frame. So now if I forget to hit S again, well, everything I did is going to be gone. And this is a pain to me, because if I go back to frame 20, let's say I want to move it down a little bit, I don't want it to be so high, like that. If I don't hit S again, it's all gone. Poof. It's like nothing happened. Now this is just a sphere. Oh, if I have to redo that, boop, done. Imagine you're animating a character who has 100 controls on them, and you're trying to do the face and doing everything else, making these tiny little adjustments to make it perfect. And you forget to hit S. And then you move on to the next frame, do the same thing, move on to the next frame, do the same thing, and then go back. Wait, where did everything go? Oh shoot, I forgot to hit S. Oh, I'll just undo to get back to it. Wait, I've just done a whole bunch of extra work. So now I have to choose between getting the pose that I forgot to hit S on back by undoing to get to it, or losing all the work that I did in between that. And I've had that happen too many times for me to want to work that way. So for me, I like auto key. When you have auto key turned on, I just turned it on right now. If I make any adjustment, so let's say on frame 20, I want it to be a little higher. Boop. It automatically keys that adjustment for you. Boop, automatically keys it. So it just works very, very well. Now there is a problem with auto key, and that is if you're not careful, if I go to any frame, it will automatically key it for me. So if I start just moving things around here on my Y attribute, just randomly, suddenly you'll notice I've got a lot of keys on here, and my ball is just going to be bouncing around like crazy. That's not what you want. You want to be very careful how you key things. So this is why when I work, I just go to the frame that I want, I set a key on everything, and then just let auto key update those changes. That's my personal preference. Not everyone has to work like that. I know a lot of people who prefer not to work with auto key. I admire them because I cannot do it. But yeah, those would be the main things. Let's see. Okay, let's open up this link here. Oop. And switch the dot to a dot. And then let's see. And it's Rafi and Much Tattoo. Thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate that. If you have two characters hugging, would you use FK or IK? I would use IK. Just that way you can kind of lock the arms onto the other person and you're just dealing with the elbows. Will you parent sphere onto the horse to check arcs and spacing? No, I would just check my arcs and spacing using an arc tracker. Some people prefer to, for example, let's get rid of my animation on here. Or actually, I'll just make a new one. That way I don't have any history. So when you're tracking arcs, there's a few different ways people like to do it. Some people like to take a sphere, for example, and I could, let's say I'm going to track the hips. I could constrain it to the hips or parent it to the hips. I personally prefer constraints, that way I'm not dealing with hierarchy issues. So let's constrain that, and then I can go to my visualize and ghost the sphere. And let's adjust my ghosting options here. So let's do custom frame steps, and we'll do 10 and 10, or yeah, like that. And now I've got the arc of that hip right in there that I can visualize and see right through here. So some people like to do that. I'm not a huge fan of that, not for any specific reason, I just don't use it that often. Instead, what I'll tend to do is I will select the control and I'll use the editable motion trails in Maya, which personally I'm not a fan of because it's a little slow. Or nowadays I use the arc tracker tool in Animbot, which is this bar right here. So if I turn that on, you get this dotted line right through, and I've got to redo my license. I updated and it always forgets the license when you update, or at least when I update. No, I don't want to buy. I've got it already. It's just sitting there on my computer. So it gives you this arc, which is basically the same thing. And I personally prefer this. It's just what I'm used to. So is one better than the other? Not really. It's whatever you prefer. Now, how do I get this? Am I going to be stuck with an arc tracker here? Just sitting there for no reason? Because I can't... Yep, looks like. Dang it. It got a message. again. Okay, so it's not just me then. Interesting. I know for me, Animbot just never updates properly. Whenever it goes to update, I have to just reinstall it completely, which is why the license keeps kind of having issues. Okay. Which leg were we working on? No, we were working on this leg, I believe. Because we have the contact here on frame 16. No. 15. Yeah, and then this foot is coming up on frame 14. Okay. Now we've got that. Now the next thing I want to do is make sure that the foot just doesn't come up very evenly here. For one, this foot should speed up into the up here. So ease like so. Maybe not quite so much. So a little bit more like that. And I can probably lower it just a little bit here. So we start to get that. Now you'll notice that it pops forward quite quickly here. I want to fix that. This is basically, now that I've held it on the ground so long, the foot is trying to catch up to where it was before, right there. And then it just slows down. So all I need to do is take this pose and bring it back. And then tweak my spacing right here, so that the foot keeps going forward a little bit faster right there. So we get that. Now it's not quite right. I still need to adjust some things on the spacing, but it's getting there. Now, the reason this looks fake right here is because of the way it's hinging. It needs to have a little bit more lead in the ankle. What's happening is that the hoof feels like it's just kind of moving on its own right here. And then we get this big pop in the back of the leg right there, which definitely shouldn't happen. And that is going to be because the hips aren't quite high enough, I think. So let's see what we can do to get this working. So I think part of it is that the fetlock is kind of stopping too soon. It kind of needs to keep going here. Yeah, already that helps. Just having that fetlock keep moving forward basically solved the issue where the foot was feeling like it was pivoting on its own for no reason. Oh, awesome. I'm glad you like the tips. And I just remembered I opened a link and totally forgot to actually look at it. Let's see. I can now do my victory. I did something good. Yay! And Maddox, hello! Okay, so let's take a look at this right in here. Nice. So overall it's working pretty good. The feet look like they're doing what they need. The main thing that I'm feeling is that the body kind of feels like there's no rotations, and specifically we're not feeling anything in the shoulders. The shoulders will definitely need to work quite a bit in this segment. Now, for you mentioned this is a gallop. So for gallop, okay, we've got the diagonal here, contact, and then it's one diagonal, one. Okay, so you've got the foot order correct. And this is the big thing with horses or any quadrupeds, is there's always a pattern to the way they walk. It's not just four legs moving randomly. With a gallop, what ends up happening is you get the contact here on the back leg. Then you get a diagonal, which technically these 2 feet should be hitting pretty much at the same time. These 2 right here. And you get a diagonal there. And then the other foot here. So you've got the pattern correct. The main thing that's happening is the chest. So the way the chest is kind of going back and forth is kind of feeling a little odd. Now this is a treadmill walk or run, so it's kind of hard to say exactly what's going on. I would have this moving in space and just make sure that the chest doesn't feel like it's coming back. And then the same with the hips here. Let's see. Yeah, and then really make sure you're using those shoulder controls. That's these 2 right there. Don't use the one on the hip though, because the hip doesn't have a shoulder, it's just a hip. And then watch your up and down. So for example here, if you watch the angle of the hip, for example, or the height of the hip, as the horse is pushing off here, this is when he's pushing off the ground to take off, that hip comes down. So this makes it feel like he's slipping. His feet are pushing off the ground, but the hip goes down. That's actually a fall. And then the hips only come up here when the feet are at their passing position. So suddenly the hips are coming up without justification. Nothing's pushing them up, they just start going up. So if we kind of look at this, you can see it right here, how it goes up there a little bit, but then down, and then back up there. So the up and down of the hips, the motion of the chest, the rotations of the chest, the hips, all of those need to be very much tied into what the legs are doing. If they aren't tied in, the motion can be right, but it's never going to feel correct. Can you explain to me how to make a moving hold good? Definitely. Now it's going to be hard to show without actually animating, but I can do that, and then I can answer your question as well. Strike speed. Any hips and torso should be in the S shape. If you mean like the spine is going to be very stiff. So this, try to avoid that. A horse is, and I say specifically that because you're getting this shape here as well. Now we can exaggerate this as animators. Sean Lee, hello, welcome. Links aren't working in my stream, unfortunately. If you just put take out the dot in the .com, then it should post. It's something I need to fix. I don't know what happened. Something updated in the back end. Curse my setup. You want to watch the spine. A horse's spine is very stiff because it's an herbivore. Oh no, it still didn't post. I think it's such a pain. If you put dot instead of putting the period, just put dot like that in there. It should hopefully work. Someone else did that earlier. I need to fix that. It's so annoying. But yeah, so I actually have some reference here. Let's see. Yeah, so this is a reference of different gaits in the horse. So let's find the gallop here. So this is a trot right there, I believe. There you go. Now that's working. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, the spine should not be the S shape. Watch the spine of the horse right here. Look how stiff it is. Now let's go forward here. That's still... Okay, so I think this is close. So if we watch the feet, this is what's going to give us the pattern. So we get contact in the back leg, both feet contact here, and then the next one. So this is what you've got. Now, if you watch the spine, it never arcs. And let me bring in my drawing tools. So if we watch the angle of the spine, it's got this shape here, and it keeps that shape throughout. There's a little bit of a bend. It's not rigid pull through the back, but it never reverses. It never goes into a C shape like this. It's always just that kind of curve this way. Now, as animators, we can exaggerate that, but we don't want to break it, because then it'll feel like a cat or a carnivore, not a herbivore. So be very careful of that. And now if you watch the feet and the hip, look at the relationship between them. So as he reaches down right here, his foot contacts the ground. As his hips just start to lower, touch the ground, the hips are coming down. That sells the weight. The hips comes crashing down. Other foot catches it. Hips start easing in a little bit. And then that foot is what's pushing the hips back up. And as it leaves the ground, now the hips are coming up. They are connected, and they are moving in a connected way. So making sure you have that is going to be very important. And if you watch the hips and the chest, there's kind of this kind of 1-2 motion. So the hips are leading the upwards motion right here. And then just a few frames later, the chest starts to come up too. So it's very much connected. And if you watch the shoulders, let's see. It's why horses are great to ride on, because their spine is so strong and rigid. Exactly. It's why we ride horses, why people can ride cows, even though most people don't. It is possible. We ride camels, we ride elephants, we ride all of these creatures that are all herbivores. We don't ride carnivores. Carnivores have extremely bendy spines. A cat, when it runs, can have a spine that goes like this into that. If you watch a cheetah running, it's just like watching a spring. It's going back and forth, back and forth. There's no way we could ride it. They would just be bouncing off. We would just be flinging around. We would break their spines as well. Their spines aren't strong enough. We couldn't even ride on their shoulders, because their shoulders are so exaggerated that it would just be like bony nubs sticking into us. So we can't really ride a carnivore as easily. I guess it could be possible on some, but we have to be we're very lucky that herbivores have a very strong and stiff spine. Now, the other thing to watch out, and I mentioned this earlier, is watch the shoulders. So the chest isn't going to rotate too much. Again, the spine is pretty stiff, so you're not going to get a bunch of rotation like this. But what you are going to get is a lot of shoulder motion. And if we watch this, it's kind of hard to see on this reference, but you can kind of see this shoulder mass right in here. Now, as he runs, watch that shape. As it comes forward, suddenly it's all forward here. You can see it stretch back right here. It's all stretched back. Then it comes forward. And the same thing on the other side. You can see it's just back here a little bit of the shoulder that we can see. And then suddenly it's all of this. So those shoulders are moving a lot. And they're doing a lot of extra work to move that body. Now, the hips don't have that. The hips are going to be a little bit bouncier, a little bit more rotation, because they don't have that shoulder, that ability that the shoulders have. So that would be the big notes that I would have for you, is looking for those ways to connect everything together and create a link between the character. So if you have any other questions on that, definitely let me know though. Now strike speed, if you want to change the FPS, there's a few ways you can do this. You can go to Windows, Settings, Preferences, and under the animation, or sorry, the time slider, right there you could set your frame rate. You can also do this under Settings. So this will change your global frames per second. For animation, we typically want to do 24 frames per second, unless you're doing video games, which is then going to be 30 frames per second. Or if you're in a European region, PAL region, you're going to be doing 25 frames per second. So for most standard, I guess the standardized frame rate nowadays is 24, but for video games it's 30. So you have that way, but if you just mean slowing something down, so for example it takes a little bit more time for it to happen, you just need to move your keys. So I'm not gonna do this on my rig here because it's gonna break things. So let's say I've got a sphere here once again, and I'm gonna set a few keys and just start animating this. So maybe something like this. So now I've got this sphere that comes up and then down, or sorry, down then up. And you know what, maybe it's going up too fast right now. I want to slow this down. Well, in order to do that, I just need to move the keys. And you can do this a lot of different ways. The easiest is just right in the timeline. I'm going to go to frame 16 right here, and this is the key that I want to move. I'm going to hold down Shift on the keyboard and click on that key. Now you'll notice it turns red. This means I've selected that key or that portion of the timeline on my timeline. Now I just click and drag. I can drag it around and you'll notice that it's retiming my animation. So now that portion is going to take a little bit longer. I can do it in the graph editor as well. So if I take my keys and just select them in the graph editor by clicking and dragging, I can then move them around and adjust my timing that way. So you have a lot of different ways that you can approach retiming a shot. So hopefully that answers your question there. Now the other question we had here was about, oh, and I don't have an account on Rhino House. I've never used Rhino House. I do know they have very good stuff though. What I do use is green screen animals from time to time. Although I didn't do it for the horse here. Green screen animals, which is a really cool website if ever you're looking for just quick reference on stuff. Now I haven't used this in a long time, so I'm not sure if everything's still free, but let's say I want to have a horse. Do they have horses here? They have a donkey. There you go, horse. So with this, I can just take a look at a bunch of different horse reference right in here. Now they're not going to have a horse running because they on a green screen set, but it is good reference to look at, especially for more exotic animals like crocodiles and stuff. It's cool to see just the nice close-up of things. So that might be helpful. And then there was a question about moving holds. Can you explain how to make a moving hold good? So that's a broad question because it goes into a lot of different principles. But to make a moving hold good is very dependent on the type you need for your shot. So for example, let's say I'm doing a really subtle shot. The moving hold might just be a character just barely you just feel the breathing almost. That's about it. Whereas a moving hold on a more cartoony shot, like let's say it's really cartoony, the character doesn't even need a moving hold. They could just freeze. Like Hotel Transylvania, the characters just stop. They don't move. But then on another shot, maybe the moving hold is going to be a hold and it's actually like just a slow down of the motion. So there's a lot of different types. Now the big thing that can help is that this is kind of for more naturalistic moving holds, because cartoony moving holds go into a whole other world of rules, and I call them rules, but it's like lack of rules in a way. But when you're doing a naturalistic moving hold, there's a couple of things that can really help. One is that you don't want it to move how to say it. You don't want it to just hit and then slide across the screen. That just kind of feels like the character's been running or moving and then they hit like a puddle of jello and now they're just moving slowly through it until they break out on the other side. It doesn't look realistic. It just kind of freezes in a weird way. Instead, a moving hold is oftentimes just a stop. So if you kind of think of that, well, a stop is kind of a settle. So instead of just slowing down, we want it to ease in a little bit more. So let me show it here. So I'll take I'll take a cube this time. So let's say I've got a cube here, and I'm just going to move it up so we don't need to look at the horse. And let's say we've got our motion. It's going to come in and then stop right there. And actually, I'm going to rotate it the other way. So like this. So we've got the motion up here and then it comes to a stop. Well, right now it just moves and then hits. That's not going to be nice. We want a moving hold. We want it to hold nice and steadily here at the end. So I'm actually just going to tweak this just to be a little bit more interesting visually. So maybe have it swoop up into that motion, and maybe let's drag it just a little bit here. So now we're starting to get a little bit more of an interesting animation right in there. It's not the most interesting, but it's something. So it comes up through there. Now we need to make a hold. Well, in order to make a hold, a lot of people will often just use what's called the copied pair method, which is you just take this object and set another key. Boop, done. So now it just hits and then holds, and then let's say we want to move it out. So afterwards it starts to move again. So something like this. So it holds and then comes through. So there we go. Comes through, hits, and then goes out. This is not going to look great because right now it just stops, freezes in place, and then moves on. So that's not really nice. So how do we make this better? How do we make this stop, but still move, but not feel like it's just swimming through the action? So, for example, let me show the other way that this could happen is, let's say, oops, let's redo this, and I'll just delete that key there. Oops. There are the extra keys. But okay, so we need a hold right in there. So the other thing that people tend to get is when a hold is just, I'm gonna kind of move this in here. So it just kind of hits, slows down, but doesn't really stop. It just kind of slows and then moves out like that. So it's it's a moving hold, but not really. It just kind of, again, it's that Jello analogy. It's like it moves and it kind of sticks through the Jello and then pops out the other side. It's not that nice. It doesn't feel natural. Okay, how can we approach this? Well, for me, it's two things when I first start approaching this, and this is kind of simplifying it down to a cube, but you would apply it to kind of the different parts of the body. One, it's making sure that your curves in the graph editor, how to say this, I'll just show it. When you're looking at your curves in the graph editor, you don't want them to just kind of look even and boring like this. Right now the curve comes in, eases in, and then eases out super evenly. Well, just like anything, if you have a super even curve, that's going to be boring. It's just going to be flat and not that interesting. You can borrow keys from other frames, yes. So that's one way of doing it. So let's say I'm going to just make a moving hold, and I'm going to hold from frame 29 to 34. So there's a few ways we can start to make our hold. The first is the copied pair method, which can work. So I'll take my key from 29 and go to 34 and set a key, and I just copied it. But you can see this creates an absolute freeze, which can work, but not always the greatest. Instead, a good way to start that I like, if you're working in splines, is I'm going to take the key from 30, not 29 where I have set a key already. I'm going to take the position from 30 and move that to 34. So all of a sudden, I've got a little bit of a hold, but it's still moving. So basically all I did was I almost stretched out that length of time between 29 and 30, and I create a hold through there. And now if I need to adjust it, I can just start working from there, and I'm now working from perfectly flat keys. In the end, it's the same result, but this just lets you get there a little faster. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in my graph editor and look at my curves and see how can I make this more appealing. So for example, the translate Y. I'm looking at my translate Y and the graph, let's make the graph editor a little bit bigger. And we've got this nice big increase of speed, comes right in. Well, as it comes to the peak here, should it just ease out evenly? Maybe. But what if instead, I'm just going to refine this curve a little bit more, because I would always want to refine it as much as I can. And maybe as it comes in, there's just a little bit of an overshoot right here because it's been going up so fast. So I'm going to just build in a little bit more of an overshoot. Instead of just a plateau, this is going to overshoot. And I'm doing that based on what I see in the curves. Like so. Okay. Now let's look at our translate Z. Now with this one, maybe we'll tweak something else. So as I'm tweaking these, I'm trying not to just do the same thing on each curve. Everyone should be a little different based on how they are moving. And this is going to help break things up and avoid it just being a generic, everything freezes and holds the exact same way. So, for example, this curve, it's coming in, but if we look at the curve itself during the hold, it's just got this generic kind of swoop in it. Well, what if we just made this so that the hold is like that? So now instead of this kind of S-shaped curve, we just have an ease out and then speed up. Or we could do it the other way, like this. So now we've just got a fast in, ease, and then an ease out right there. Now, because this is so fast here on this side, I think I'm going to do it the other way. So it slows in to that and then comes out a little quicker. So this is going to do two things. And before I get to that, yeah, so now if we look at this, it comes in, stops, and suddenly that alone made a huge difference. Why? Why did that make a difference in suddenly making this hold not just feel like it just kind of hits that jello and then moves on? By adjusting this curve, what I did, because I flattened that first tangent, I changed the, I guess you could say, the timing of the hold a little bit. So before, the only time it held was between frame 29 and 34. That was the hold. Everything would come fast into 29, whew, and then hold, and then move out from 34. But I lengthened this tangent specifically on the other side, so before 29. What this does is, if we compare our curves now, and let's go to normalized tangents or normalized view just to see, you can see this is the hold right in the middle, right between these two. But look at how long Translate Z is actually holding before that. It used to be like this. So I'm going to exaggerate. Fast and then stop. But now it's slow to the beginning and then holds and then comes out. Whereas the Translate Y is fast and then holds in there. Okay, what's that do? It is almost the equivalent of doing this, of offsetting your curves. So now instead of everything holding at exactly the same frame, we've created the illusion that certain things will stop first and then others will stop after. A little layered approach without even offsetting our keys. And this is what gets a natural moving hold. When we hold, not everything stops at the same time. We've got bone, muscle, fat, skin, all of this. If we stop, sure, our bones might stop, but the fat might keep moving. As we stop, our hips might stop, but our head might keep going. It's a layered approach, especially when you're dealing with big expressive motions. It's not just a stop, everything stops, and then everything goes again. If I stop, my hands, for example, let's go full screen here. If I'm kind of running and then stop, my body might just stop, but my hands might go like that. So I've got this offset where one thing stops, the other things keep moving. And then my shoulders, what are they doing? Well, they're going to want to stick with the hands a little bit, but also stick to the chest, so they're somewhere in between. And if you start layering that throughout your whole character, it doesn't have to be much. It's not like body, whoa, hands stopping. Like, it doesn't have to be a huge amount. But this little offset in things makes a huge difference. And when you can apply that to the attribute level, so the translates versus the rotates versus all of that, suddenly you get a much more interesting stop. So for example, we've got some rotates in here. Well, right now the rotates are stopping at the same time, and I'm not going to offset these here yet. So the rotates are stopping at exactly the same time as the translates. Well, usually rotations will overshoot a little bit. So what if I took this, and we've got our rotate X here. What if I just offset that just a little bit? Let's see what happens. Well, that makes not a huge difference, but you can see here how everything, let's zoom in. As it stops, everything just kind of hits at the same time. But if I was to offset it just a little bit, suddenly that rotation kind of continues just for a tiny little bit before continuing through. And then as it starts to move, the rotation just doesn't kick in when everything else kicks in. So if we watch here, you can see that change in the rotation. It's not much, but it's enough. that we feel it. And then I can take my rotate Z and adjust that as well. And that's going to make a difference. But the big thing is, don't change things randomly. Think through it. Why are they rotating that way? Why are they translating that way? And how can you push it to be natural in this moment? So that would be my main suggestion, is don't be afraid of pushing these curves and really thinking about how this object would kind of move. So for example here, because I copied the keys, all the tangents are just going to be easing. But the rotate Y, I kind of want this to have a little bit more force. So maybe there's just weight in that corner. So instead of starting to reverse here, let's just have it hold and continue in the same direction. Like that. So now it hits, and that you can almost imagine like the shoulder coming forward and then wanting to keep going forward. So something like that. So now let's look at this kind of full screen here. Oops. Bip. So if we watch this hold now, let's see what we've got. So it comes in and it's still very stiff, like it's still a short hold, but it doesn't feel like it just stops dead for no reason. Now the big thing I would want to do here is just kind of push the ease out a little bit more. It kind of, everything starts to move together once again, and this is kind of in the translates. So at this point it's not so much the hold, but the way it moves out of the hold. So for example, I would probably want it to move a little bit more forward before it comes down. So I'll just take my curve here. And let's hold this a little bit longer. Once again, creating offsets. So now as it comes out, there's just a little bit more of an offset right through there. So let's see how that feels. Now, it's kind of hard to say because it stops so soon after the shot, but already that feels way better. And I'm just going to continue the cube past this point, just so we can kind of feel that. Okay, so it comes in, and then there we go. So that's just a quick little thing, but if you start doing that on all the attributes and all of the translations and all the different parts, again, thinking through it, not just moving things randomly, or else you'll just get random motions that move for no reason. This is going to get you a much stronger moving hold. The big thing is thinking through it. That's the main thing. Things don't just stop and start at the exact same time and hold at the exact same way. So I hope that made sense. And I have lots of questions. If you have questions, definitely feel free to ask. That's what these streams are here for. And let's see, make sure I didn't miss anything while I was talking. I really love creatures. Can't wait to take creature classes in the future, but without mastering body mechanics, I don't want to get into creatures. Yeah, creatures are definitely way trickier because you're dealing with twice as many legs, and depending on what creature you're animating, sometimes wings or claws or all sorts of weird things. So definitely master body mechanics first. You don't have to get it absolutely mastered, but getting a good understanding of body mechanics is going to let you go a long way. I would recommend doing and studying body mechanics before going into creatures. Yeah, cool. You're right. Better to master body mechanics than it would be ideal. Yeah, perfect. You can borrow keys from other frames. Yes. And Anna Wilson. Hello, I'm doing well. How are you? Okay, cool. Caught up with the chat. Nice. So let's see how much more we can do on the horse. Now, unfortunately, I don't have too much more time here in today's stream. mostly because I'm going to be prepping for a D&D game in a little bit, so I want some time to prep for that and grab some water and all of that good stuff. Don't want to die of dehydration before I even get to play. Okay. So we just held that foot a little longer, so let's see how that feels. It's not going to be quite right because the mechanics of the leg are not going to be right. But that definitely feels better than the other foot. The problem right now is that the ankle looks like it's breaking itself. And part of the reason is it's bouncing. So it comes in all this way, and then on the very next frame it starts to straighten out again. So in order to fix this, what I need to do is just keep that ankle pivoting in this direction. And then probably push this a little bit more here. I could probably tone this down actually. This quite a bit. That's better. So now that foot doesn't feel like it bounces. That's way better. Now some things are still off, but we're getting there. Now the big thing that I need to push is the contacts as well. But let's just get the other foot staying on the ground just a little longer. So that's going to be contact right there. So let's see. Contact. So it should be one frame. Let's see, contact on frame 15, on the ground on 14. So contact on frame 1. Or frame 29. So it should still be on the ground on frame 28. Oops. What's going on? There we go. And let's push this curve right there. I eat something. Yeah, grab a little bite to eat too. It was a good session. We really learned a lot. Oh, I'm glad you learned. That's always kind of the goal here, is if someone can take something away from it and learn something new, then I'm happy. Okay, so I just want to make sure that my spacing on this is working correctly. It should ease out. And then let's get the fetlock positioned correctly. And then get this as well. So something like that. Now you can see how the foot just kind of slows down right here. That's definitely something I want to work on. Right there, you can see it just got this huge increase in speed and then just slows to a crawl. And I'm not a fan of how it just goes really slow here, so I might just repose this just a little bit. Hey Steven, how's it going? Yes, we're doing a morning anime stream. A little bit, we weren't expecting to do one, but Cameron's computer just completely stopped working this morning. None of his monitors want to show up correctly, and he's basically crawling under his desk right now trying to get everything working. So, oh well, that's why we have 2 computers. Yay! The joy of having 2 people who stream. Let's see. Okay, so that's feeling a little bit better. The back feet definitely still feel very strange because of the way that they contact. And the thing that's really feeling weird is that they just kind of magnetize to the ground. So let me actually look at my reference here. And the reference I'm looking at is this one. So if you watch the way the feet contact the ground, this is the interesting thing with horse feet, is that at least when they're walking, the back feet contact the ground on the inside edge, like this, but the front feet contact on the outside edge, like that. So you can see that angle there versus the angle here. So that's something I'm going to have to try and get in there. So let's see if we can kind of do that here. So this is the contact frame right there. So all I need to do is rotate it, and let's see which control is going to be best here. It's going to be this one. No, wait, I think, did the horse have a... For some reason I thought the horse had a specific control just for rotating on the edges of the foot. Okay, yeah, there you go. Weird. I don't know why it wasn't working earlier. Yeah, so I just wanted to contact right there. Oh, that would be interesting. Just pretend to be Cameron and, oh, see, I'll just draw Sir Fuego and start animating him. And we see the horror that ensues. And then up a little bit there. No, wait, sorry. Back foot, inner edge. This is one of the big things that I would never have thought of if I wasn't looking at reference. I wouldn't have thought that horses contact on the inner edge of their foot when they touch the ground. Just seems kind of odd. And then let's flatten that out on the next frame. Okay, then the same thing with the other foot. So it contacts here on frame 22. So inner edge, tilt it back just a little bit, and then zero it out. Okay, so that helps a little bit there, but we still got a long way to go to get these feet working correctly. And oh, where'd my camera zoom out to? Interesting. Do you think that if we study horses for animation, we will ever understand how they are so majestic? I think you'll get a good appreciation of what makes them majestic. And I think a lot of it has to do with just the slight overlap in their motion. Everything just, it's right on that verge of being too stiff, but without being too, like, just springy and lanky. There's just this kind of grace that allows us to see exactly what's happening without it just feeling stiff. So for example, an elephant, when they're running, or larger animals, they are very stiff. Elephants can't even technically run. So they don't feel graceful. They're just a little too slow. Everything kind of moves together. if you look at smaller animals like cats and dogs, oftentimes they can run and it's just too fast. We can't really appreciate how they move until we slow it down. So for example, cheetahs, you can't really appreciate how they move until we actually slow it down. But horses are at that right size that they move slow enough that we can see a lot of their motion, and because their spines are so stiff, they're not bouncing around. And I think it just gives us a better appreciation. It's almost like we can watch them in slow motion at real speed, which is really cool. I once rode a horse when I was a kid, and it was a very interesting experience. I'd love to ride a horse someday. My whole family used to ride horses, but unfortunately my brother and I, by the time we were old enough to ride horses, they had gotten rid of the horses, so never got a chance, unfortunately. And I just noticed this needs to be fixed here. Let's see. Elephants can't run. Yeah, elephants cannot run, which is just kind of a strange thing to think about. But elephants running, their speed walking is very funny. And then especially baby elephants. Baby elephants are just adorable. There's just something about them. They're not made for speed. Okay, that's working better there. Okay. Pandas are moving like a drunk guy. Yes, pandas are also really interesting to watch mechanically. They just move in such weird ways. Okay, let's get rid of that and then just key this. Love to hear more about overlap. Let's see, I'm trying to think. Overlap is a huge topic. But in general, the main thing with overlap that can be very helpful when you're starting out is to keep in mind that objects want to keep traveling at the speed that they used to be traveling at. So what that means is that oh, and I just realized I think I got my other foot backwards. It's going in right there where it should be going out. Should be coming out this way, I think. I'll have to double check that on my reference, but pretty sure it goes out then in. So with overlap and with any kind of motion like that, how do I want to say it? A common mistake that people do is as they build the overlap on their objects, things just kind of slow down for no reason. Things will just kind of hit a wall and then just stop. But overlap is basically one force acting on another and transferring its speed, if you think about it in terms of physics. And this means that the first object to stop will stop, and the second object will try to keep going at the same speed that it was traveling in. And this is especially true for objects that aren't alive. So ponytails, things like that, skirts, clothes, anything that is just an inanimate object, it doesn't know it's going to stop. So it's just going to keep traveling at whatever speed it can. And then once it stops, it just keeps going as much as it can. So watching for that kind of speed change is going to be very important in really getting overlap to feel right. Now, one thing I'm noticing here is that this back foot is straightening out too quickly. I'm going to just double check my reference here and compare what I've got. Yeah, it's actually not too bad. I think I can keep this down just a little lower, exaggerate that a little bit more, and then push the fetlock and straighten that out. The other thing that I can do to really show weight is, it's going to be a small thing, but it's going to really help. On the frame of the contact here, the fetlock is going to have a bend in it, like so. But then right afterwards, you can see how that fetlock is going up. It needs to come down. And then keep going down. Like that. Then let's ease that out. So this is going to really help sell the weight in the horse, is getting that fetlock to move in the right way. Now, it's not going to be quite right just now, but already that makes a huge difference. And then making sure it doesn't just freeze. Why is it freezing? Let's see. Giraffes can gallop. Giraffe galloping is very strange. Can we find a panda rig? That would be interesting. I don't know if anyone's made a panda rig. Let's see. I think giraffes can run. Or now the thing with a giraffe run or quadruped running is that there's a lot of different kinds. So there might be a specific kind that they can't do. So for example, a horse has 5 different types of gaits that you have. You have a walk, you have a canter, you have a pace, gallop, and walk, canter, pace, gallop, and what was the other one? Canter, pace, gallop, and trot. You have a trot. So those are 5 different specific ways for a horse to move. And they are very specific because of the foot order that happens and how those gaits move. They are very specific. Dogs, cats, they have their own gaits. And some animals have certain gaits that others do, but others don't. So it could be that the giraffe has certain gaits that it can do, but not a specific, for example, a gallop. They probably can't gallop, they can probably do something else. Or I don't know for certain. I've never studied giraffe running specifically. They actually can't. In order to run, all feet must be off the ground. Okay, so yeah. So giraffes can't technically run. Same with an elephant, because all feet have to be off the ground for a run. No, that's interesting. Okay, there's where it's stopping. So let's not have that stop right there. There we go. That's a little better. Now, let's see. What else do I need to get done on this? I definitely need to work on things like this. The angles are all weird, funky. let me check my reference. I want to see which way the horse's foot comes off the ground, because I believe there was a specific way. Yeah, it comes off out the way it is here. I can probably reduce that a little bit. Bring that in just a little bit more. And then here I need to fix this. So right now you can see how that leg is just kind of popping in right there. That foot is still going to be coming outwards and rotated this way. Now this is another interesting thing about the back feet that I would never have guessed if I didn't study the reference. Is that the arc of the back foot does not... so if we're looking at the translate X here, this is a side to side. It doesn't just move in a nice clean arc. It actually moves in kind of a number 3 shape. So it's going to come in towards the center here. Goes out. So out first, then back in a little bit before going back out. And then back in again. So it goes out, in, out, like that. Which is just a little strange when you think about it. Now, the amount that I'm going to be able to do this is going to be interesting, because this is definitely going to feel like a wiggle in animation. And I might have to just cheat it to not actually have that, or make it so subtle that we just barely feel it. So maybe something like that. Think you can really simplify a complex topic. Oh, thank you. And if you do have specific questions on overlap or anything that you're trying to get overlapping, definitely let me know. Have you seen tangent space optimizations of controls for character animation from Disney? I have not seen that, actually. I definitely need to take a look at it. That sounds awesome. No more graphs needed for animating, only a little bit. Ooh, that would be awesome. Would you mind elaborating it for us if there's a sample video on the internet? I'll definitely have to take a look at it. Just from the the name itself, it kind of sounds like just a smart graph editor, basically. So instead of having to change everything manually in the graph editor and try to create these graphs on our own, it's using a little bit of smart knowledge. In Maya, Disney does use Maya, so it would be a plugin that they have, most likely. Oh, and Steven, links aren't working for some reason. I'm going to be fixing it after the stream. But if you just replace the period in the .com with like quotations dot or something like that, or just take it out, then it should post no problem. Okay, let's see how this feels. Yeah, it's a little wiggly still. That's the main concern I had with trying to incorporate this actual foot arc. Now, I think part of it is it's just moving too far out. Horses are stiff animals, so I have to be very careful not to have the feet just kind of go way out in weird directions. That's a little better. And then let's see how much we can minimize this. Like basically, I want to keep the idea of it but to a small degree. Okay. Yeah, still not a fan of it. Let's see if I can maybe push it here. Something like that. Now, technically, I really don't need to worry about getting it perfect. It's just more to see if I can. Let's minimize that, and let's just really push this through here. See what we can get. Okay, maybe that'll work. It's not gonna be quite right, but okay, yeah, that works okay. Let's see. Copying the link into the address bar won't work, though. You can right click and search it up on Google. Yeah, that's the main thing. Okay, let me copy this link. And I'm gonna take a look at that once I can. Let's see. I'm smarter than this. I don't need to delete the period. Yeah, it's so painful. I'm not getting the overlap on the dog rig neck. That looks natural. With that, getting overlap in the dog, it's tricky. Getting overlap in necks in general is very tricky. The way I typically approach it is, well, there's two ways. One, I'll just look at my reference and figure out where the ups and downs on the head should be in relation to the contact feet or something, and put those in manually, and then just create the arcs from there. If you're having trouble with that, one way you can do it is you can copy the translate up and down of the chest, copy that into the rotation of the neck, and then just offset it. And that can give you some overlap right in there. And do you guys have reels online? I would love to see some acting stuff. We do. Now, I will mention this right away. Our reels are old. I think our reels are 8 years old now. So it's definitely something that my brother and I need to work on updating. At the moment, there's kind of just no need to do it. So we're just working on other projects first. But you can find our reels on there. And again, these are 8 years old, I think now. Or 7? No, they're not that old. How old are they now? 5 years old? Something like that? Twitch is my reel. Exactly. A bunch of half-finished work. I need to finish some projects at some point. That's the one thing I'm really bad for, is I don't finish projects like on Twitch and stuff. I just kind of every person that shows a reel ever. Yeah, that is very true. In my case, I can't remember the last time I updated the reel. It must have been about 5 years ago now. the last shot on there is probably 5 years old. Or the newest shot on there, I should say. Best part of animation, you never stop learning. Exactly. Let's see. Isn't it a problem that it walks out of root bone? Oh wait. Isn't it a problem that it walks out of root bone? Is that for the this one right here? I'm working my older shots to finesse the reel. Was not that polished well. Yeah, the polishing phase can keep going forever. Now, one thing I do like to do when I'm contacting feet is, you'll notice here how it contacts and then just kind of flattens out like this. I hate contacts like this. Whenever I have foot contacts, I want to have a little bit of a slide forward. So it contacts and then just has this kind of slip. Now that's a little bit too much of a slip. So contact on frame 22. Yeah, so that's a little too much. But just something like this. So what this does is this helps to show the weight of the character. The weight doesn't just stop and freeze right on the contact frame. It kind of wants to keep going forward. It's amazing how much that can help push a creature. And it goes for people too. One of my pet peeves in animation, and mostly it's a pet peeve because I used to do it so much when I first started learning, is having things just glue to the floor. The feet come in and it's glue. Ugh. It's not fun. Like here, you can just see it goes in and glued. No, this horse is not going to the glue factory just yet. I never will if I have my say on things. It's going to be majestic for the rest of its life. So let's make it so. And have a little bit of slip in there. So now it comes in and there's just a little bit of slippage. Now when you're doing this, I like to zoom in, but also keep in mind that you're going to be seeing this shot from like over here. So we still want to be able to feel it from a distance, but feel it, not see it. It shouldn't feel like the horse is walking on ice. And Pixel Urge, thank you so much for the follow. In Blender, you can fix slipping by adding an empty as reference at the position before it slips. Then you can change the interpolation to linear and just adjust the keyframe. Nice. Maybe you can do that in Maya. I think you can. For me personally, I just key it. I'm very much just, if I need to get something working, I just put it in there myself. It's just the way I kind of got taught on how to animate. But there are so many cool tools now that help with so many little things like that. Oh, it's so cool. Okay. So we've got that going. Got the translate X on that one foot. I need to apply it onto the other foot. Let's see. What else do we need on this foot here? Now, as I'm going through this, one thing I'm trying not to do is I don't want to get caught in getting all the tiny little details for no reason. I'm doing a lot of small details right now, but I also want to make sure that I approach this smartly. I'm going to be making adjustments on the hips and everything else, so I can't just be trying to polish this up to a fine, absolute sheen. I need to work smartly, or else I'm just going to end up redoing a bunch of work. Okay. So the way it comes into the contact here is a little slow. I'm not a fan, but for now I'm going to leave that. A nice video I can recommend with 2 approaches against foot slipping. It's Blender, but I'm sure you can do the same in other software. Nice. I really need to get those links working. I wonder if I can just do it midstream. Probably not. I probably shouldn't even try. Ooh, nice. Let me copy that here. And I want to grab that other link again just to make sure I've got it. One day I should try to animate with Blender. It's definitely on my to-do list. The big thing is finding time. Okay, yeah, so the next thing I want to do, and I'll just do it on this foot for now, is I want to make sure I get the fetlock animated correctly on the contact. So the fetlock on the contact, there is a very specific thing that happens on the back feet versus the front feet. And that is that the fetlock, as it contacts down, goes in a circle right through here. So it goes like that. Just like that. Now that's probably going to be a little too much and too fast, but I've got the main motion in there, so now I can just kind of go in my graph editor and start toning it down. So it's going down a little too low. And then let's get my rotations in there. That's good. Okay. Let's see how this looks from a distance. Probably still going to be too much. Actually, that's not bad. It's got a little pop in rotate X, but I need to see how it looks at speed. Yeah, overall the fetlock is going just a little too low right there. It's starting to look a little broken. And if anyone's curious, like when I keep talking about the fetlock, it's this joint right here. That joint right there, that's the fetlock on the horse. Which is technically, I guess you could say it's like our knuckle. It's a knuckle joint. Oh, Orkan, take care. Thank you so much for dropping by. I'm on Discord with the same name. You guys can message me. Oh, awesome. Take care, and hopefully I'll see you in the stream sometime. If you can find time, let me know where you got it from. Oh, where was that? Oh, let me tell where you got it from. I've been looking for some extra time for a while. Oh, extra time. Yeah, if I find extra time somewhere, I'll definitely let people know. It's going to be the best kept secret that animators will have. If we can find out where we can all get some time and actually do extra stuff, oh boy, are we going to be powerful beings. Okay. Let's see. Okay, that's good. So I think with that, The rotation is a little much still, but I'd rather keep it a little exaggerated for now. Especially from a distance. I want to be able to feel it. I think we're definitely going to feel it a little too much, but there we go. So I need to do the same thing on the other foot. And then I definitely still need to refine the front feet too. So for example, I'll just do this quick here. As the feet contact, I'll need to move it back a little bit, just like I did on the other pose. So just back a little bit and slide it in. Like that. Let's make sure I copy my start and end pose. Actually, to cycle this correctly, let's undo that. And translate Z. I'll do it in the graph editor. So if ever you're trying to work on a cycle, and for example, I need to move this foot. I need to move this foot back on the first frame. All you need to do is go in the graph editor, select the first and last keys, and move them together. And this will ensure that your cycle isn't going to break. Okay, that's a little bit too much of a slide there. That's starting to look like it's on ice. Okay. And Wolf, how's it going? Okay, that should be better. Yep, poof. Okay. Let's do the same with the other foot. Now this foot I don't have to worry about the cycle, so it's going to be a little easier. So just take this, yep, a little back. Next frame, just a tiny bit back. And we've got that nice ease right in there. And once I push this a little bit more, so for example on the contact frame, and let's see, there we go. This needs to go up just a little bit here. So the hooves on the front feet, when they contact on the outer edge. And let's kind of move it up just a little bit like so. Then on the next frame, they're flat on the ground. So we get this kind of extra motion in there. And let's see, maybe I can push the slide just a little bit more now that we've done that. And no, that's good. Do the same with the other foot. So on the contact pose, just push that a little bit onto the side, a little bit up, copy it over, and there we go. And Rafa Prado, thank you so much for the follow. I'm doing well, Wolf. Just trying to learn how to animate a horse. So just getting all the little details in there. And we're starting to get there. It's still not quite there. Specifically, at this point, we're starting to get the feet pretty much in place, but we still have to work on connecting it to the shoulder and hips, and specifically the shoulders. That's what's really not working right now, and it's causing a lot of issues with the front knees. But I think we're starting to get there. Now, one thing I feel like I could do is I could slow down how fast the hooves, the back hooves are coming up. It just feels very strange. They kind of pivot up. It's almost like his feet are being shot out from under him. So I could probably add an extra frame right in there. You don't have any tags on? Oh no, I don't have tags. Dang it. I keep forgetting that the tags erase themselves. Oh well. Let's see. So at this point, I just need to do a little bit of extra work on this hoof, and then I can call it for now, because I'm actually gonna have to get going pretty soon, unfortunately. So as the foot lifts off the ground, the foot moves in, like I was saying before. When horse walks the back feet, don't just move in a nice clean arc. So it's not just a simple, smooth, for example, if I take my graph edit here, there's not this, just a nice clean arc. It actually moves in a kind of number 3 pattern. So it'll go out and then in and then back out again. So a little bit more like that. Now, does this mean I actually have to get this exactly and get this perfect pattern? Nah, most people would never notice. But because this is me trying to learn how to animate a horse as correctly as I can, I'm going to try and get it in. Did I hear foot and nice arch? Yeah. Let's see. For the amount of time I'm spending on foot arcs and all of this foot animation, it's almost surprising I don't get kicked off of Twitch for breaking their TOS. Okay. Yeah, that's a little too much. That's going to feel like a wiggle, I think. Let's see. How is that a TOS? On Twitch, you're not allowed to show any feet based on their terms of service. Now, since it's a horse, it's okay, and since most of the rigs I use have shoes, then it's fine. But you can't have bare feet on your terms of service, or on your stream because of the terms of service. Feet in art are allowed, yeah. It's a fine line. Let's see. It's similar, like you can't have people sleeping on the stream, which that one makes a little bit more sense because it's kind of an easy way to make money. You just sleep on stream. But even if, let's say I was to be animating or maybe playing a game and then I accidentally fell asleep on stream and just kind of dozed off for a few minutes, that could potentially break the terms of service. Let's see. You can sleep on stream. You can sleep on stream as long as you are not in a category. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's interesting. For some reason, or I had heard that you're not allowed at all, but yay! Now I don't have to worry about accidentally dozing off. My tired animation brain is happy about this. let's see. What if you're streaming, I don't know, a Taekwondo session? That I'm not sure. What if you passed out from not drinking water? That's impossible. People don't pass out by not drinking water. I've never heard of this. Anyway, water belongs up in the sky, in the clouds, not in your mouth. What is this sorcery? Oh, dang it. I was going to say, plus I've got water, and nope, I don't have. No water. Let's see, not sure, but the largest is foot. Yeah, boots, probably because there's no room just to show them. Yeah. As long as the focus isn't on feet to attract people. Yeah, it's a weird TOS, but I have to say, overall, Twitch has been super nice. Like, with everything that I've been working on Twitch, they have been just so awesome. It's really a lot of fun doing Twitch content, just because of the way they keep pushing the platform and trying to make sure that it works for everyone, even for people like, for example, I'm not a partner on Twitch, and I really don't know if I'll ever become a partner just because of the requirements for it. But the fact that they keep pushing how much they give to affiliates, it's just so cool. It really feels like they want people to have a good time on Twitch. The worst mode, the worst. Drink water before a D&D session? Oh, we'll see. That makes sense in terms of only if you only do that to gain views. Yeah. 1-2Ders had a temp ban, but the problem is that for art you can't set up that the stream is for mature audience. Yeah, that is tricky. It would be cool if there could be just a few more tags and stuff, and an age checker. So basically people have to log in and verify their age before they watch a stream. Sorry, got caught up in foot arcs right here. There you go. So trying to get that round arc to that fetlock, which I think is still a little much. Is this Mario Kart? Yeah, it is. Okay. Let's see how that feels. There we go. So if you watch the fetlocks now, you can see how they've got that extra little bit of rotation in them. So that's just going to help push that kind of realism in the horse. Now, to be fair, I should have done that later. It's a little early to be trying to get all the perfect fetlock posing done when I've still got a lot of other stuff to work on. But I just wanted to kind of show the details we kind of have to watch out for. Let's see. Getting partner in this content, I'm guessing, is very rare. Yeah, it very well is. And Daniel, hello. Chopped in what's mature? Feet are mature. It can also make you think about what you make it smut for views. Yeah. Showing feet, starting Twitch before I start to stream my 3D. Oh, nice! That's awesome. If ever you start streaming, definitely let me know the link. I'd love to check it out. Why are people talking about feet? We were talking about the terms of service on Twitch. Let's see. Now you need to stimulate the muscles under the skin. Yeah, that's going to be a whole other thing. And basically what I would do is use layers for this. And this is why this control is here. For anyone who's wondering, you've got this big control here that you shouldn't really animate because the horse doesn't have hips right there. But you can use this to add a little twitch to the muscle, so as it lands, you get that kind of shake right in there. Just kind of right in there. So I might add that later, depending on how far I get with this. And then you can make clusters and stuff for other ways of... what was the horse sculpted in? That I'm not sure. I'm assuming it would probably be ZBrush, but I don't know. Let's see. Hope for the Halloween someone streams dressed up as a huge foot. Oh, that would be interesting stream. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so I think for the feet, really the main thing that's kind of left is the moment before the contact needs to be pushed a little bit more. The feet are kind of just drifting into the contact. But everything else is pretty much working the way I want. So I think I won't have time to do it this stream, but on next stream I'll kind of finalize the feet very quickly and then go back to the chest and hips, specifically the chest and the shoulders, and get all of that working, get the knees working, and then from there it should be pretty much done in terms of the walk itself. After that, it's just a little bit of head overlap, which that shouldn't really take that long at all. I know when my extremes are, I know when the rotations are going to be. So yeah, I think the big thing is getting the chest and hips to work, because right now it is feeling very disconnected in a very odd way, which I'm not a fan of. And part of that is because I held the feet on the ground a little longer. The rotation, especially the rotate Y, is not quite lining up anymore. But that's fine. And this is one of the big things with animation that a lot of people have issues with, especially when they first started working with the layered animation method. So you'll notice I'm kind of doing things separately, not working as a whole. Is things are going to look worse before they look better. You're going to start animating and it's just not going to be right. For example, right now, the mechanics, they're kind of there, but they're not connected correctly. That's fine. As long as I know about it and I know why, I can fix it. And I've got it on my to-do list. So that is an awesome emote combo. So when you're animating, keep in mind that it doesn't always have to look good at every step of the way. As long as you know why it doesn't look good and you have a plan of attack, you're going to get there in the end. And if you don't know why it doesn't look good, that's when research and studying posing, for example, is going to be very helpful. And in understanding what is going on and why is it broken. Why not using a neural network so AI is making the cycle? You could technically do that, but in general, neural networks are just not that good at making a specific thing. So a neural network could be very good at making, for example, just a vanilla walk cycle, which would be okay for what I'm doing. Like for this, it would probably do it super quick and no problem. But there is a reason why, for example, Disney or all of the big studios don't use neural networks to animate their whole films. Because you can't get it to do exactly what you want, or you spend more time trying to make it do what you want than just doing it. It's why most video games and movies, even though you hear like, oh man, it's motion capture, like 99% motion capture, all of that. True, some things are very much motion captured. Takes all of the motion, puts it in there for you. 100% of it is touched up by an animator afterwards, or redone by an animator afterwards. Does it mean that motion capture is a bad thing and oh, it's just hype? No, motion capture is an amazing tool. Just like the graph editor or Maya is an amazing tool. It is so useful in getting motions and details that you would never be able to get naturally, or like it would take hours and hours and hours to try and get it in manually, like I'm trying to do here, all these little details. But doesn't mean that an animator isn't going in there and making it better and more awesome and actually feel right. Yeah, the whole Gollum issue, or like Planet of the Apes. A lot of the hype about that was that it was all motion captured. But there's only so much that a human can do to look like an ape. And they can get most of the way there, but they're not going to get the final details. They don't have the bone structure for it. So an animator will go in and then adjust it to make it work. So even with neural networks, there will be times when you will have an animator go in and help. Now, there are differences in certain things, like for a video game, let's say, you'll have animation that is 100% procedurally generated. That is really cool. So you technically don't have an animator keying everything. But the reason for that versus, for example, a film, is that in a game, a player is controlling the character and moving them in totally random ways. So having something procedurally generated makes the job a lot easier, because otherwise, as an animator, we have to make a ton of animations to get everything just right. But, this is the flip side, if you watch those games that are all procedurally generated, they don't have the same type of animation that you would have for, let's say, Jak and Daxter, if anyone's played that, or Red Dead Redemption. Those have to be hand-keyed. You're never going to get that stylistic animation without keying it manually. So there's a time and place for all of these tools and these ways of animating. And even if neural networks became like amazingly smart, I don't think they'll ever replace just keying it manually. It's almost like we've got tools and things that can draw for us. We can just bring in a picture into Photoshop, hit a few filters, and oh look, it looks sketched. It's never going to replace actually drawing and doing things by hand. It's just, it's just not going to have the same end result. It could be good in certain ways, but not replace it completely. So I think with that, I'm actually going to have to get going here if I want to grab something to eat and drink before I have to run a D&D game, which I'm super excited for. But I hope this stream was helpful. I didn't get quite as much as I wanted done. I wanted to kind of finish up the feat, but we're pretty close. Yeah. If anyone does have questions or demo requests for future streams, definitely feel free to message me in the Discord down below. It should be linked down below there. And hopefully next stream I have the links working so people can finally post stuff and not have to do all these weird workarounds. But yeah, hope you guys have a fantastic week. Best of luck on all your projects, and I'll see you around. Bye!